Okay, so now we're going to see here the setup of a template inside of CodeIgniter. So first of all, you download CodeIgniter, and then when you extract the project and delete a few extra folders, you should be left with a systems folder, which is the core of CodeIgniter, and you should be left with the application folder, which has all of the cool stuff where you can basically fill up these folders. Now don't mind the Htaccess file and the index.html file. They're there for your protection. When you upload these files, they prevent the directory from being read, and so they show this index page by default, which says you know, that the listing of the directory is denied and so forth. And then inside of these documents, you can build all sorts of things, multi-language sites, and then your models, your controllers, and your views are going to be the core of this particular framework. Now, in order to get this set up with the URL, you need to create the Htaccess file and put the proper rewriting rules inside of this, making sure that the module for URL rewriting is turned on your server. So to do that, you can take the actual Htaccess file inside the applications folder and paste that file into the root beside the index. Then you can open it, and then I'll take away this instruction, and then we'll go on the CodeIgniter site, and then we'll actually go to their manual under CodeIgniter URLs, removing the index.php file from the URL to make the URLs more dynamic. So you grab the rewrite conditions and you paste them into the Htaccess, and you should be good to go. So now let's do a quick test here. Let's go to our, so this doesn't have any server set up to it. So let me actually create that. I'm gonna go here, FTP address. So this is going to be a remote server. FTP address is going to be local.codeigniter, and then the username CodeIgniter, and then the magic password. So we've connected successfully. Let's hit save. Let's make that our testing site. I'm going to go on there and then just remove everything that I had built in advance. And I'm going to take that away. Okay, so now if we upload this entire project to our remote, we can then preview this file into Chrome. Update on the testing server, sure, yes. Dependent files, should they be included? No. Alright, so this is the default message that we get when you're loading up CodeIgniter. So now if we were testing this to get different kind of setup, we would need to create a controller for it to detect what we're writing here. So if we want to create, you know, a bunch of pages, there's no point in trying to create a controller for each individual page. If they're going to be static pages, might as well just create one controller for all those pages. And this is the way it works. You essentially come here, create a file, pages.php. This becomes the controller for, sorry about my keyboard there. So this becomes the controller for the pages. And you create the class pages, and essentially you have to extend the CodeIgniter controller. And then by default, the function is index, but we'll create our own function view. And then this is actually the same code that you can see inside of their demo. Page we want to load is example by default. We'll make it the home page, and then essentially we can get going with this. Now let's just do a quick view. So we can put here and just new file. Let's just call it home.php. And then inside this file we could say welcome and then we'll just put a big H1 here and say welcome home. Okay, so now to load this view, we need to call upon some of the functions here, and then they give you some examples in the other controllers. This.load.view is as basic as it gets for loading a view, and we want to load the home view. Okay, so it's already going to look inside this folder on its own. One good practice would be to group those static pages into a pages folder, and then put the home page into it. And so we can just prefix that with pages. It already knows to look in the view folder. Okay, now when it's a PHP file, we don't need to write home.php. If it was some other type of file, you would need to specify the extension. Now we can upload this, upload that. Oops. Okay, and then we can go here and try pages, and then we get the 404 not found. Let me see here, pages slash, and then we would need to say view. Okay, so you can see now pages slash view is calling and creating this object, and then calling upon the view function, which loads our view for the home page. Okay, so now the idea is to make this, let's say, the home page. We would need to change the default controller in the routes. So we go inside the routes, and then if you look here, the default controller is the welcome. We could just make it the pages slash view, and that would become our default controller. So if we just come to our site, what happened here? Oh, we need to probably upload the routes, and then we have our home page. Okay, so this is as easy as it gets. Now if we wanted to create other pages, we could basically build here a certain kind of loading system. Now obviously it would be nice to create a little check making sure the page exists first. So example, if the file doesn't exist, and then we're going to look for the file inside the application folder slash the views slash the pages, and then we're actually going to check for the page that you want to load. And then this is a PHP function, so we do need to specify the extension. It's not like a CodeIgniter feature here. So we're looking, if this file doesn't exist, then we're just going to call show 404, which that's a CodeIgniter feature. And then example, if this doesn't show the 404 page, then we could be confident that this file actually does exist, and so instead we can load the page in question. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's create, let's say, the about page. So we're just going to create a new file, call it about.php, and then we could simply say about us, and then h1, make it about. Okay, so I'm gonna upload this. I'm gonna re-upload my controller for the pages, and then we can look at pages slash view slash about, and then we see the page make it about. Now how do we automate this process so we can just say mywebsite.com slash about? So we go under the routes, so that's under configuration, routes, and then we would need to specify a new route for basically anything after the URL. I would like to go to pages, view, and give that particular anything to the view parameter. And so we can upload this. And example, if we just say go to page about, then it works. So we can go to our home page, and then we can go to the about page. So this is a really nice system, okay, because we can keep building these objects, and it's very much integrated. So a lot of stuff happens under the hood. I suggest you go and read example the what is it, the form validation object here, form validation class. Very awesome tutorial there that you can follow in order to make forms and functionality. So as the tutorial section here on creating news sections and news items, okay, working with the database essentially behind the scenes. But now the question comes, how do you integrate your own style and your own template? So we're going to go ahead and go and download a cool template from StartBootstrap.com. Now these are ready-made, open source, Apache licensed, Bootstrap templates, and they're very nice, and they really help in the development process. I'm going to grab maybe a quick one here, something very simple. This is a one-page template. This is a landing page. Let's see, a live preview. Okay, so we're gonna try to get this one here and see how we can integrate that into our software. So we got that landing page downloaded. We're gonna go ahead and open it up. So we're gonna go here in Dreamweaver, and then we're going to explore that, and then I'm going to go ahead and look up this file I've just downloaded, landing page, and then we're going to extract that here. Then we're going to put the landing page on the desktop. So now I probably would want to go to the desktop and open that landing page folder to kind of get a look at what's in here. So we have the CSS. We have the font awesome, which is actually awesome. The fonts, which are the glyph icons for the normal Bootstrap stuff. A few images that come with our design. Some of the JavaScript, including jQuery, and then our wonderful landing page that we need to integrate. So let's see how we can get that working. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reorganize this a bit. This is not usually the names that I want. Always feel free to confident, because once you get a few good sites going, and I know some agencies have a few hundred sites now, and basically all of them are coded differently. So feel free to really adjust this the way you like and make them consistent with your coding. And obviously, if you work for an agency, try to develop a standardized coding so that everybody follows the same rule. So I'm going to put all the font awesome fonts inside of my fonts folder, so all of the fonts are grouped together. Okay, so I'm going to go to my fonts folder, and you can see the font awesome and the glyph are there. And also there's the CSS for the font awesome, so I'm going to take that away, and we're not going to use the rest. Okay, so that. Now I'm going to take the CSS, the font, and the JavaScript, and then I'm going to take that and then move that into my project here. And I'm going to place all of these at the root. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is this. I'm going to rename images, and then I'm going to take that and also place that at the root of my project. This is how my CodeIgniter project is going to look like. Okay, so this is our index page. So for now, we're really not using it. We're just going to open it in Dreamweaver as a reference in order for us to be building this particular look and feel. And so first things first. Now, if we want to take this entire code and move it into our application views, and then go into our home page so that it becomes our home page, let's save this and upload this. And let's also upload all of our new assets here. And so I've only changed the fonts folder, so essentially if there's a problem with the fonts, that could easily be explained with the fact that I've changed the location. Again, for the images, if they don't load, it could be explained because I've renamed the folder. But what I'm going to point out here is it won't work out of the box. Okay, if we go back here to our home page, we'll see a lot of the code, but we won't see any of the style. And if you go under, you see that if we try to get, example, the style sheet for the landing page, we get the 404 not found, but it's the right location, CSS/landing page, and we got our folder CSS/landing page. So what's the matter? So this is probably a good question. CodeIgniter is actually evaluating this and is trying to look for the controller CSS. And that's not a controller in our site. So we need to tell Apache to exclude those things. So we're going to go back into the Htaccess and we're going to add these exceptions. So we want to make an exception for CSS. We want to make an exception for fonts. And then we want to make an exception for images, which is already there, and then an exception for JS. So now we can re-upload this, and then if we test that, now we actually get the CSS. So I just refreshed the same link, but now I actually get the full CSS style sheet. So things are looking good. If I refresh this, I'm starting to get close to what I want. Now, I need to go in here and readjust some of the things that I've changed. So for instance, the font awesome now is not inside that folder, it's at the root, CSS. Google API for this font is real nice. Then this is actually a good URL as well. And then we could see here, this is the normal navigation. And then there was a few images. So for instance, this one here, image iPad, is no longer inside of here. So what I can do is for each image, I can use Dreamweaver to search and replace the source image to become images. And so I'm going to replace all of them. And so there was only 3 and there's no more found. So I'm going to upload all of this and then just refresh. Looks like I still have some issue. So maybe now the last one will be inside of our actual style sheet. So we can actually load these from here. Maybe look at the landing page there, and we can see here the IMG intro BG is going to be images intro BG. And this was just because I could have left it IMG. I really wanted this to be images. And that's your decision. So you know when you make that decision, you have to do your own fixes. So let's upload that style sheet again. Let's refresh. And now we could pretty much see the nice style sheet. Now, what if we wanted to click this button and actually go to the About page? So let's copy this landing page again. So that's the home. Let's copy everything. And let's go inside the application About page. And we can put that here and then upload to the server. And then we're going to need to change our navigation so that it now reflects the right link. So we're going to go here and say /about. So now if we refresh this page, actually we only changed the about, we need to change the home as well, so I wasn't quick enough. So /about, let's upload this. So we can see here the link is the right one at the bottom, and if we click, we go to the About page and we get the same thing going on. Okay, now the idea here is that we're only one folder deep. What if we wanted to have example services and then different services inside here, like let's say services for web design. Now if you know about the URLs, what's going to happen is all of the links are not going to get the style sheets anymore. Okay, so actually let's just test this services / web design. The way that it's going to work, it's going to look inside here, pages, Maybe we should make a controller for services. I'm not sure exactly what you guys want, but anyways, bottom line is that whenever you change these things, the links become different. And so for fixing that with CodeIgniter, what you do is you go inside the configuration and you open the config.php file. And then you see this base URL is an empty string, and so you can make it your base URL for your site. So mine is http://local.codeigniter/, and that's my base URL. So now when I create these, I can actually use the echo base URL in front of my links to make sure that all my style sheets load independently, whether I have many subfolders within subfolders, because these path here CodeIgniter knows but the browser doesn't. And so when you show the web page, it's important that it links to the right file. So example, if I save this now and upload it and go back to the home page, oh, what just happened? View page source. I have a fatal error. I'm not able to call base URL. This is actually because to use base URL, you need to have a little utility. So this, I think it's this load and then helper, something like that, and then URL. I'm not sure, but let's just check it out here. So you see now it loads the full path, http local.codeigniter/css, which then makes it fully functional independently where this goes. Now, when you're building bigger sites, obviously they're not all landing pages, so you're going to want to template this a little bit and start using a few reusable parts. So for instance, if I go into my views, I can actually create a templates folder, and then I'm going to create a file for my header, and then I'm going to create a file for my footer. Now this is particularly useful when you start getting many pages or you have all these different views, but you want a consistent look across your site. So what I do is I usually take pretty much everything above with the body tag, and if there's an element that gets repeated at the header, I'm going to use that. And so the question is, how am I going to be able to now change the title of my page? So when we learned about doing PHP templates, we did this simple echo title. Now we can use that exact same technique here into the CodeIgniter. I'm going to copy this bottom part there so we can get the absolute URLs, and then this is good for the header. Now I'm going to go back to my page here. I have this whole navigation, and usually I like to have my navigation as a template, so I'm going to take that as well and create a new file for the navigation.php. And I'm going to put the navigation in there, and I can make the changes, and it's going to reflect on every single page. So now all I need is to cut the footer out, and you can see here there's an actual footer with some links and a copyright notice with the Bootstrap and the jQuery. We can actually take all of that and put it inside the footer. Okay, so now essentially the only thing we need is to reflect that on the home. So we're going to take that away, take the navigation away, and go down at the footer and take the footer away. So now if we update the home page and if we update the about page, they're both like empty a bit. So if we refresh this, you see none of the style, none of the header is loading. So how do we get our header and footer in there? So we'll go into our controller and we'll open the pages controller and we'll actually load some other views. So we want to load, example, the templates slash header and then we want to load the navigation, and then we want to load the footer after the content of the page. And then we want to upload this to the internet. And then if we refresh our home page, oh, an error was encountered. Yes, because I did not upload my templates. So let me upload this for a sec. Okay, upload these, and then voila. So now I'm back with this thing going on here. The only thing I wasn't able to do yet was to place the title that I want. I could see for some reason there's like an error there because I could see some code. So let me inspect this and see what's going on in the head. There's like an error was encountered. Undefined variable title. Okay, so I guess this is CodeIgniter trying to help me, reminding me I need to give it a title. So the way we do this is we create a simple variable here. I suggest calling it data for now, but you can call it anything you want. Then we create the title as an index in the array. Then we could set this example to the name of the page. For now, we'll just put the actual page ID or slug that we kept giving it. And then we'll give that data to the views. Okay, so we can give it to this view, we can give it to this view. Now the navigation and the footer, they're not using any special things, so we'll just update this and then we'll look at it. And you can see it's getting the home, and if we go to the about page, it's getting the about. Okay, and so this is how you integrate a template with the CodeIgniter, and at this point also you've integrated the Bootstrap at the same time. Okay, now I suggest also getting extra documentation on Bootstrap, or actually it's getbootstrap.com. There's a lot of useful information. This documentation has been rewritten recently, very awesome. And if you look here under getting started, you can actually replace some of the links that we had put there and make them the ones that are from the content delivery network, which should speed up. And if everybody's following along those lines, we should get a faster response whenever we're using Bootstrap. So we can do that by going to our templates now. And if we have a template, obviously it's going to update every single page we have. And I don't see the style sheet for the, oh, it's right here. See, I had forgotten it. So example, the bootstrap.min, so I can leave that there. Now Bootstrap theme, that's I guess optional, we can take that away. And we're not going to load the normal one. Or example, we could just remember it used to be there and place a comment. And we're going to go in the footer and place the script there. So footer, so instead of loading the script from our own local Bootstrap, we're actually going to load it from the content delivery network. By the way, the same thing can be done for jQuery. And so actually, what's the address of the jQuery? If we go to jQuery.com, you can see here, I think if you click download, it's going to give you some script there for the jQuery 1.10.1. So that's 1.10.2. So we can actually make it 1.10.2. And so usually what you have to do when you're doing this is you have to check that jQuery is loaded, because sometimes for some reason you can have an error over the network and something going on. So you can check if jQuery exists. Okay, and if it doesn't exist, what you can do is I think it's window.write or document.write or something like that. Let me see, document.write. And then actually when I use and then you can actually write this particular script here, which is the local version of your code. Okay, meaning that if you don't find jQuery online, you can always use this. And I think it's better if you replace these entities here. So I think it's a %x3c. No, not that. What is it? Backslash x3c or something like that. There's some kind of an entity there that you can use. Anyway, this is going to work, but it's better if you replace this entity here and this entity here so there's no confusion about what you're trying to do. Okay, so actually I would like to double check this. So I have another project, CodeIgniter Bootstrap, and then if I go into my views, this is not the right view. This is not the right view. Footer. So document.write x3c. So I had it. That was x3c. And you can see I also did the base URL before the link there. So every window.jQuery, so we could say window.jQuery instead. So here window.jQuery, document.write, and then \x3c, \x3c. And let's not forget to put the PHP echo base URL. Okay, and then we could do the same for any local URL that we still have. So this is not a local URL. And let's go and look here at the header. So we got this going from the content delivery network. We got the font awesome. Now I suggest again looking at font awesome. They probably, it seems to be very popular now to direct people to use a content delivery network instead. Example, get started. And look at that. Font awesome on a content delivery network. So we can place that here. We can see the font awesome on that delivery network. Perfect. And we can take that away. Then we got this, the Google API for the fonts there, the Lato font. That's actually a really nice font. I've been using it quite extensively recently. And then we can use our normal landing page, which is going to really tone down a lot of the loading on the site. It's going to really optimize everything. Here's the logic. Every browser caches the files based on their URLs. So if your website is mywebsite.com/js/jQuery, then it needs to load it because it's never been on your site and never loaded your jQuery. But if it sees that particular address that everybody's using, then most likely it came across a site while browsing that asked for it. So we don't care now whoever's the first one to get you to load it. At the end of the day, if everybody does that practice, everybody should get a faster web experience because the browser will cache these files, and so that file will already be in the browser when your site loads, thus really speeding up and the second thing is it's a content delivery network, right? Max CND is a content delivery network, and really speeding up the speed at which even it gets there the first time. Okay, so we know how to put the title in there, we know how to use base URL, and then we have extended this script to use a lot of the stuff from online. So we're really ready now to make a serious website. Okay, so if there's any question, you guys can post a comment or something, and that's it.